Okay, so you see, understand why, it is. On the flip side, you can also say win-win. Hang on, Matthew. It also could be the way you also look at it. It could be lose-lose, right? You could also, if you're a half-full person, the cup is half full, you say win-win. Because at the end of the day, we didn't press the nuclear button, both of us, so we win. Yeah? Okay. Yes.
So, in the case where you have a manager and a staff member, how do you get to the collaborative point, especially where you know that the power dynamic is quite, there's a big difference in the power dynamic?
Okay, so you're talking about where now, if that manager is mature, he would do that. If not, that's why I said, when we said sources of conflict, we said sometimes those conflicts are also caused by the persons, the managers themselves. So as managers, we have to be aware on how we cause those conflicts and avoid them. That's why we're in this class, to avoid how we cause conflicts. So that when we see situations where we need to collaborate with our junior partners, we do so. And we look at them not as subordinates, but as partners. Okay?
Sorry, online we had a technical issue. So you're saying, can we just do a quick recap?
Of which one? Of conflict. All right. Oh, okay. All right, let me take a question first.
Okay, so another question. Based on that.
Are they hearing now? Okay.
Okay, another question based on that. What if in a team, I mean, you mentioned that there's personal conflict and then there is also the team level and then the organizational. So when it comes to having individual and team conflict, let me give you a simple example. If, for example, I were in a team,
yes,
and I know that what the decision or the manager has come to would affect me as a person, right? Especially in the long-term goals of a team, do I avoid the conflict to my expense or at my expense, or do I go ahead with the team and know that later on I would be the one that would lose out?
If I understand the question you're asking me is, a decision being made, the decision being made will affect you on a personal level.
It would affect me on a personal
level. But on the team level,
it wouldn't.
It wouldn't.
Exactly.
All right. So, for instance, if this project finishes, you don't have any more job.
Exactly.
Okay. And you want to know what you should do.
Exactly.
Okay. I think the first thing is to put the organization first, because that's why you're there. All right. And I'm just giving a recipe. I mean, there are different forms and different situations in which you can take it. But I'm thinking from the top of my head, I would take the organization first. If this is the direction we're going on a project and we know that the project had the conclusion, I wouldn't have a job again, after that, because of how I have performed and I have done my best, hopefully the organization will see clear enough to say, well, another project comes, you have performed great on this one, you would have something. Because the unlikely situation of you not having something is based on your assumption that after this I will not have anything, isn't it? So I'm saying first, go along with the team, get the work done, do it because that's what the organization is hiring for at that time anyway. Then after that, you can now begin to talk about what other roles can I have as a person, okay? Does that answer your question, or it's a little bit more deeper than that?
No, yes, it does. It does answer the question. I mean, especially comparing it from a situation. Because at the end of the day, people also would need to think about their own personal career.
Absolutely.
And so, for this case that you just brought up, and I like the example you gave, if it would affect the person's career, if it would affect the person's career, getting out of a job is one option. What about self-esteem, in the sense that maybe you'd get a lower level at the end of the entire project? In that case, resentment would build up in the long term, and resentment can be bad as well for the organization. So I think I'm also looking at different possible scenarios where this can play and how to deal with this as well.
Yeah. You know, I always say to people that people should not think that the one job they have is the end and be all of jobs. You'll be surprised that because you have given your best and you've done your best, first of all, you've learned a lot from the teamwork. You've learned, you've gone through a process that is uniquely your experience. And once you have that experience, you can sell it. You know, I always say that at middle level, a lot of people are hiding in organizations when they could be entrepreneurs. Okay? Because the way we look at work today is not going to be how work is fashioned in the future. The workforce of the future is different. Okay? It would be that online you can get a job, it's on value. It's on value, what you can bring to the table. You can get a job in China and sit down in your house, you do it, you send it to them, they pay into your account. You know, the workforce of the future is different. Technology is taking over half the work that human beings are doing. So, you know, let's look in terms of how we can also be prepared to do work, not to always think about in terms of promotion, I want to move to this level. There's no promotion in the future. You know, you have a job, it's this level. No, in fact, they don't even, I'm paying you based on short-term work. And that's what you do. And at the end of it, you move to another project. HR used to be such that they would sit down and say, you've moved too much, too many jobs. You know, you're not a stable person. The work-off of the future is, you know, the number of jobs you've been able to do, accumulate your experience. And that's what they're going to be paying you for. So the more projects you're on, the better for you. So if at the end of that project you move into another one, or you put out your CV, and you get a better one. So, and you can negotiate. With each job, you negotiate, you know. So it can happen, but people shouldn't be so wrapped up in worried about, you know, ending and jobs, and it will change. Things will change in the future. Okay.
Question. Quick question. Could the best approach be based on the person you're dealing with at the time?
Absolutely.
Because the more I look at this, the more I think sometimes avoiding might actually work. For example, if I'm dealing with a manager, a higher up, and I've had no success convincing this person of anything in the past, I might avoid at that time because I know as soon as he starts trying to roll out this idea his way, he will run into problems. And at that point, I could represent the original idea as a solution, and the person is more receptive at that point.
Exactly. Sometimes you also have to watch people and see when they'll be receptive. You know, I think wives know this very well. Yes? You know, so we know when we talk to our husbands, when they'll be more receptive to some things, right? So you avoid until you can get. So yes, you're right. The person that you're dealing with, it's important for that person. I mean, for you to know that person so that you can deal with that person according to any of these 5 conflict issues, how to deal with it. Okay, I'll have him, then I'll have you.
Okay.
Okay, and then you. Okay.
I still like to make a contribution in line with what the former speaker has just spoken.
Yes.
We were told that some leaders rule by divide and rule. And in an organization where you, as a team lead, you have a superior officer ahead of you, you have another superior officer ahead of you, and then you have those staff working under you, getting straight access to the top superior officer higher than you, and selling rumors or dangerous rumors about you to that superior officer, probably trying to blackmail you. And unfortunately, we have superior officers who don't take time to investigate the information that are passed to them, especially negative information. You know, they took that negative information to heart, won't tell you, They won't call you to discuss it, and they just start, witch hunting you or firing you from an entirely unknown angle to you. So my question is, when you have such a situation, how best will you handle it?
Okay. I'll have
My
her
question is
to...
similar, yeah.
Okay.
So not exactly witch hunting, but having someone superior to you, taking your team member and giving your team member work in such a way that you now find that the team member thinks the higher person is more important and thinks they should please the person more, and that affects your ability to control the team. So what do you do in that kind of situation where it's like you're just there and the person doesn't recognize you and refuses to, so information passes over your head straight to the
person.
superior, or the superior calls the person straight and you're just left out.
All right. So in such a situation, I'll talk about what I would do. All right. Do you have the right to restructure your own team, don't you? You have the right to restructure. So I will restructure it. That's one thing I'll do. I will move that person to a different position. You have to also, as somebody who is in charge of people, also sometimes assert your authority. And you have to learn to assert your authority. If somebody's doing something, you can sit down with them and talk to them about it and say, look, the work you're passing through, I have to see it. And if they say to you that, oh, he called me, and therefore I say, fine, no problem, but whatever you're still sending to him, I still have to see it. You have to copy me on anything that you're doing. Because if you don't do that, then it means that you also are playing into his hands and you're undermining me. Unless you directly want to undermine me, I want to know that now. And that person will say, no, I don't want to undermine you. It's because he's always calling me. That's why I'm doing it. And I said, okay, so let's establish these ground rules. Before you send anything anywhere, I have to see it. We have to discuss it. We have to agree before you send. And you copy me. All right? So once you've done that, the person will be able to work in that, well, you've given him something to work with. If that person continues to do it, in spite of what you said, redesign your structure at trouble spot. You take direct action. All right? Reduce task interdependence. Re-clarify task responsibilities. You have the authority to do that. The person works in your team. So you now say, okay, from now on, you go clean toilets. I'm just saying, okay? So, okay, you just do that. Yes, sorry.
So we have OK online. He said, could you please throw more light on compromising as a response to conflict?
Okay. All right, sorry, I'll get to you. I haven't forgotten both of you. Let's take someone offline, all right? Online. All right, so we talked about compromising as an intermediate. It's like you're both being assertive and cooperative at the same time. Is okay hearing me? Okay. So it's a situation where you are assertive and also cooperative at the same time. In other words, you're trying to partially satisfy yourself and that person. That's compromising, right? It says here that, where the compromiser or him should expect to relinquish something. You as a compromiser, you have to be able to give up something. If you're not going to give up something, then it's not compromising. Compromising will work when you're willing to give up something. And that person is also willing to give up something. So that is how you compromise. All right? It is useful when the cost of conflict is higher than the cost of losing ground. So that is compromising. Is okay with that? All right. So can I take your question?
So I was just wondering, in response to Ida's question, where you said if you've tried all approaches and nothing is working and you want to redesign work in your team, what if you're not in a position to redesign? So you have situations where you say someone is the manager, but you're not giving them full power to, full authority to drive that team. So what do you do? So that's not my real question. So I was just reacting to Ida's question. Okay. So should I take my question?
Please take your question.
So if you're in a situation where you feel there's a divide and, what's that word? Divide and rule situation. So you're in a team, but you suspect that that is happening. How do you handle it? Do you collaborate?
There are two things.
Okay, if you know that this is going on. Yes. What do? Do you collaborate with your subordinates and now work against the overall manager? I don't know. How do you handle that situation to ensure you have a win-win? From the top, yes.
Is divided working with your subordinates?
Yes.
Against you?
Yes.
Okay, so it's almost like that question.
So sometimes you feel undermined, like, okay.
Do you want to help with the answer? Okay.
So in that kind of situation, if you are the subordinates, what you need to do is to carry the manager along. It happens to me that somebody at the top, you understand, will bypass my boss and come to me for questions, solutions on some stuff like that. So whenever I'm responding, I'll just meet my direct boss. I'll brief him. Then, if I'm sending the mail, I'll copy him the mail, so that he'll be fully aware of what is going on.
Yes. Well, that's what I preferred before. Now, let me ask: do you run a flat organization? Yes. You run a flat organization. Yes. All right. So, if you run a flat organization, then somebody asking another person is part of what the flat organization does. But if you don't run a flat organization, it's hierarchical, then that's a problem. But it can also be flat, and then you're some managers. I'm hearing you say you have managers, so there are steps, isn't it? Yes. All right, so it's not flat.
It's flat in relating.
Okay. It's flat in relating, okay. Please give her the mic. I'll still come back to you.
I think sort of also to buttress what both Oyin and also Olamide were saying, it's not so much that it's flat in organizations, it's that people can, if they want to, just like fire off an email right to the top, where there's some organizations you would never do that, so they can just completely bypass 4 grades or whatever and just go, boom, I've put myself out there.
Yeah. Well, I seem to hear your chairman saying that he likes that, yeah? Where, especially when there's a situation where somebody can, talk to a senior person directly, yeah? So, again, it means your organizational structure encourages it. Your organizational structure encourages it. So, I would say that instead of you need to accommodate it. You need to avoid confrontation, right? And you need to compromise and collaborate. And collaborate. Depending on, like you said, the situation. It is situational. So, based on what I'm hearing about how you're structured, you have to accept it, but you have to make sure that whoever is working with you understands that you need to see everything. You need to make decisions about those things before it is passed to a senior level. And I think that's where you can hold your subordinate firmly. You have to just work with your subordinates and hold them firmly and make sure that they do what they need to do. Like you said, if they're not doing it, you have another conversation with them. But who appraises them? You do or they do? The person they are giving the memo to. Yeah. So if you appraise them, and if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, right, you put down the appraisal. You put it down with the appraisal because it becomes an appraisal issue.
What of second level appraiser to be done by the
Yes, of course.
The
they will
superior.
ask you, yes.
And let us zoom in terms of mark. You are giving a point. You give 2 or 1. And your supervisor is now giving the fellow 4 or 5. Because he or she is dealing with him or her directly. Because it has happened to me somewhere. I worked with White then. It would tell me that, please, don't relate information to this man. But I try to look at a way to resolve it, because even if you want to send mail, you are not expected to copy. We tell you point blank that don't copy him. I don't want him to know anything.
So you tell him offline.
Well, anyway, I discussed with a white man. Then the Nigerians, I discussed with him, then try to resolve the issue between the 2 of them.
You have to be wise.
Yes.
You have to be wise because...
Ma, I think I would like you to give an answer to that. You score your team member 1, and your superior scores the person 4 or 5. So what do you do?
You should sit down with your superior and say, why are you scoring him a 4? And you say, this is why I scored him a 2 because of this. You must have a reason why you score him a 2. Yeah?
It's dealing with him directly.
Yeah, so you ask him why he's scoring him a 4. Based on what? You work with him directly. He doesn't work with him directly. Okay.
Okay, on the flip side...
I'm coming out, Matthew. We haven't even got to you yet. Don't worry, we'll get to you. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah.
On the flip side,
yes,
where you have a junior person, okay, you heard the chairman say that he encourages people come straight to him, especially when there are problems.
Yes.
So when you have a junior person who has an idea and discusses with a manager, and it is shut down, occasionally, almost all the time, it's shut down. How do you then go straight to the top and still keep the manager, knowing that if you discuss with the manager, it's going to be shut down anyway? And I guess that's where the chairman's concern and reaction came from. So how do you deal with that dynamic?
Where the younger person is shut down all the time, so he now goes
to take whatever the idea or the whatever it is he wants to say to the top. How do you do that, carrying along the manager?
But we've already talked about it yesterday. You still can go there, but you need, if I say that if that issue is of great risk, if it has to do with huge financial losses and you have the answer, if it has to do with saving lives, maybe on a rig or something, that's when you have to make a determination when you do things like that. You can't just take everything there. It means that you yourself, you're not a serious person. Do you understand? So you have to pick your fights.
Yes.
You have to pick your fights. In an organization, some things you avoid. You can't fight everything. If you don't pick your fights, I'm telling you, people, you end up out there. In fact, there are many ways in which they will squash you. So it's not everything that you will now run and say, oh, let me go and talk to. And those people that you're talking about that even go up. Yes, a lot of them are just going up because they're now used to going up. So they need to sit down and say, which one is important for me to take up? Which one should I talk to my manager about? Which one should I inform my manager all the time about? Right? So it's a strategy that junior people also have to learn to play. It's the politics of the organization. And everyone has to learn to play it well. All right? Okay, let me take...
What I actually wanted to add is when Alex said, if I got him right, you do a temporary avoidance and look for a mood that is more receptive. Now, I look at the situation where the guy holds a strong view about the topic. Even in his lightest mood, he's still going to insist on that view. So when you now say you pick your fight, then I think I got that message right. Not all fights you want to avoid.
You need to pick your fight. Matthew?
I don't think there's really anything much, but I just want to say this. You already rounded it up, but I want to say to each one of us here, every situation has its own response. Whatever we are doing here is just a reaction. Everything, whatever we are doing, we have to study the situation and know how best to respond at every point in time. Secondly, the issue of your subordinates just going over you to report to, I think you need to develop a relationship with that subordinate. You can know everything. You can know everything that is happening, just that you may not have it formally, you may not be formally informed. It's all about you developing a relationship with your subordinate. Yes, Yinka, I know you may not want to send this to me. What is it about? This is just to help you in the future, or probably if anything comes up in the absence of your subordinate. Maybe your manager's manager may ask. The person you're reporting to may ask, this particular issue, what is it that you know about it? It will not be right for you to say, I don't know anything. So you need to develop a relationship.
Then say, they don't
They
put
do,
me
so they
in
don't
the
put
picture.
me in the copy. It is they. Who are the they? Who are the them? They will tell you to mention the names. Who are the they? Who are the them and the they? So I think it is important we develop this relationship with our subordinate. It's very important because we get our work done through them.
Okay.
Another thing, sometimes, if possible, let the person send the mail to you only after it has been sent to that other person. You can develop that relationship to that extent.
But the final decision taken has to involve you. At the end of the day, it has to involve you. It has to have your sign off. If not, no matter what they're sending up, doesn't count for anything. Yes.
Okay, I just want to contribute. What I would say is it has to also do with the maturity of the subordinate. Mm-hmm. So the supervisor has a role in coaching the subordinate, telling them what to do in this kind of situation. Because over time, people will understand that that is not how to work.
Absolutely.
But the subordinates can get carried away that the big boss is talking to me directly.
Yes.
So, and the manager can also feel very bad. Nobody wants surprises. Mm-hmm. So you just get to a point, they ask you something you don't know. So I do tell my guys, you need to let me know. So it happens here. That's how we work. But so there are things that I do sometimes that my supervisor or my manager may not even be involved. But in most cases, when I'm doing those things and I'm done or in the process, I'll try to let her know. I'll put her in a copy. So I think it has to do with a lot of coaching to just let people know. Absolutely,
I agree. So I think enough said about this. And also, do you not have, for your teams, you should have some weekly meetings and things like that. So they give a presentation of what everyone, what are you doing? What works are you doing? And that way, everyone can also keep everyone updated based on what they're doing. So it's just not you, but every team member is aware that, you're talking to this boss about XYZ, or he needs XYZ from us as a team, and you're working on that with him. So it's good to always have some meetings with your people, find a way around these situations, coach them, because like he said, sometimes they are just new entrants into the organization, or this is their first work life. So they think that's the way, to work in the organization, but they'll find that that's not necessarily how to do it. Okay. So resolving conflicts, I've already talked about the first one, where you take direct action. Where you have a problem, you take direct action. And then the second one is to aim to create self-contained work groups with sufficient resources and guidance. You have to guide them. Okay. Indirect action. Don't cause conflict yourself. We've talked about this already. Don't cause conflict yourself. Sometimes you create the conflict. Do not steer team members against one another. Just as we said, we don't want divide and rule from up there. We too, we shouldn't do divide and rule. Be approachable. Allow people to air their views. And if you don't allow people to air their views, they'll be going to the top. So allow them to air their views so that you don't even give them a chance to go to the top. Okay. And if it's a group thing and you've accepted it and they still want to go to the top, it's an exception, not the norm. Investigate conflict issues and nip it in the bud before they snowball. So if there are conflict issues, deal with it immediately before they become something bigger than you can handle. De-escalate techniques. You can diffuse. It's like you have a meeting and everyone is getting rowdy and it's not working out. You just tell them, okay, let's take a 5 minutes break. Let's come back and discuss this issue when we're all a little bit calm. So people will go out, you give them 5 minutes stretch break or whatever, and they come back, and then you can start the discussion. You know, sometimes you have to create that little bit of room so people can cool down, okay? Or you deflect. You know, say, okay, well, let us talk about another issue, then we'll come back to this. We'll pack this now, but we'll come back to this issue. Or you can smooth over the conflict. You can say, well, this is not as bad as you guys are making it based on this. I know that you think it's so bad, but there are other issues that I understand and I know about. Therefore, it's not as bad as you think it is. So you smooth over the issues. So you have to make these decisions, and it's tactical. They're delay tactics so that people will not, you know, get so riled up about issues. The consequences of continued conflict situations should also be passed across. In other words, tell your people that if we continue to, you know, have issues where we're always arguing and quarreling about things, you know, the team would not achieve what we've been asked to achieve. Compromise and collaborate. Somebody asked a question of compromise. Here we have bargaining. As you all well know, if you have unions, one of the things they'll do is that you go somewhere and you sit down until you come back with a compromise. You have the bargaining, you sit down and you trade. You say, okay, I'll give you this for this. Why don't we do that? So, you know, you will sit down and work on it until you come out with a resolution. That's what they put them in hotels for, especially all companies that have, you know, unions, unionized organizations, you know. And they could be in the hotel for, you know, up to a week, 2 weeks sometimes, trying to straighten out, you know, and get to a point where they all agree on the different issues that they want to, right? Also, increase contact or communication between individuals or the warring groups so that the stereotype views are dispersed. The third one, structure the interactions to avoid or minimize sensitive areas. So these are ways in which you can compromise and collaborate. We're going to talk about building trust and relationships, you know. Define the word trust. This is what trust is, and I'm sure we all have our different definitions of it, so I'll just go quickly into the main issue because we spent time. Yes.
Online. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, he's saying in a situation whereby you have a senior team member who instigates conflicts on other team members and even against you, can she provide best, okay, that is, can you provide best resolution approach?
Okay, so I think I can throw this open. We've already gone through this a bit. So who can help us with Okay's question? Anybody? Did you understand the question? It's a senior person who is the one that is causing the conflicts, right? Senior person causing the conflict. How can we deal with this? Anyone? Okay, Mazi. No. The senior person, okay, maybe the person is dividing and ruling, but it's the senior person doing it. I think we've answered this. But let's...
I think it sort of begins with also, you know, as you already said to us, that you talk to the junior person, you get them to always, you know, be collaborating with you, so that even though the senior person's trying to create an environment where everyone's fighting themselves, you as the middle manager, you probably have more face time with your subordinates, so you could create the collaborative environment, even if every time you have a big group meeting, the senior manager is trying to make that happen.
All right. Okay. I was going to add something. Yeah.
I'd want to look at it from... Okay, I'd want to look at it from this approach. You have a senior person and you have a junior person. You are stuck in between. Now, if the senior person is passing instructions directly to the junior person, I think first is to meet with the junior person, find out what actually is happening, work on those projects or those issues together, then report to the senior person that, okay, I understand A had these instructions, do this, do that. This is what we did. This is the summary of the report. A is bringing a more detailed report. That way you are making the senior person aware without confronting the person directly.
That you know what's
that
going
I
on.
know you have somebody under me reporting back to you. You are making the junior person aware that you have a line you could equally reach out to the senior person with. Because at times, it might not be the senior person directly instigating the conflict. It might be the junior person taking advantage of access to the senior person to instigate conflict.
Okay.
But when you have that two-way approach, the senior person knows you are aware what you are working on with the junior person, but you've left room for the junior person to still present the report. You just gave the summary. So I believe that way, once both of them know you are involved, gradually those rough edges will be smoothing out with time.
Okay. All right. One thing we haven't said, and in answer to a case question, you know, and providing a solution, is why, since we say that this organization is such that we have interaction with the senior people, right? We can talk to them. It's open door. It's quite liberal. You as the person, why not go to the senior person and sit down with him and have a FaceTime? Why can't you do that? Why can't you say, Kenneth, say you're the senior person, I need to have a chat with you. And then he gives you a time, you sit down in the office with him and say, you've been sending work to Olamide, and I really need to know why you feel you need to do that, you know. Because you need to understand why that person is doing that. You need to bring it up front to the person and say, why are you doing this? Because I feel undermined by what you're doing. Even if you don't say how you feel, you can even tell him that you are capable and competent to do the work that he's given to her. Or you can give it to her by yourself. You need to find out why he's doing that. Because at the end of the period, he's going to appraise you of not having done work. Meanwhile, he's giving 4 to your subordinates and giving you 2. So you need not to avoid. You need to go, because if you really believe, if that junior person is bold enough to be going back and forth, and then you are just avoiding, then there's a problem. Maybe he thinks you're not competent. Maybe he thinks that he can't trust you with things. Maybe you have violated his trust somewhere. There must be something while they're going above you to somebody else. So if a senior person is the one, like, okay, he's asking, it's causing the divide and rule or causing conflict, then you need to sit down at your level. You need to be able to sit down with the person and sort it out. And if you feel that you haven't got a good answer, you need to escalate it. Since your company, you can escalate. You need to escalate it. Or yeah. Why would it deepen? I think we shouldn't be fearful, because if we say that this organization is such that we want things on the up and up, we don't want silos, we don't want working in silos or working in fear, or we need to take that bold step. Respectfully, do it. And don't do it where everybody is standing and say, Oga, you're messing me up. Or say something, you know, untoward in an open space. Find time, like I said, find time when you can talk to that person. Okay? Take the person out for a drink. Okay? And talk to the person. So it can be in a relaxed atmosphere. All right. So I hope Okay's question has been answered. Okay. So we need to move right along. So trust is do what they say, belief and confidence that others will do what they say what they mean, represent themselves honestly at all times. And environment, it's about the office, the physical environment, resources, behavior of the people within it, the rules that govern it, the parameters for us to work with. All these things matter. There's what we call the trust equation, where T is trust, C is credibility, R is reliability, I is intimacy, and SI is self-interest. So, trust is equals somebody who is credible. If you're credible, right, and you're reliable, and there's intimacy with you, there's a relationship, okay, there'll be trust. And that over your self-interest. So if you're putting your self-interest, you know, all these things over your self-interest, then it would mean that it would depend on whether your self-interest is threatened or there are concerns about it as you build trust. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay? So you're looking at your self-interest and saying, this person I'm dealing with, is this person reliable? Is this person credible? Right? Do I have a relationship with this person? That would help land you on whether or not you should trust that person. Am I clear? That would help you determine whether or not you should trust that person. If C is missing, that means that credibility is missing from that person. Right? But they are reliable and you have a relationship with them, right? Would there still be trust? If the person is not credible, they've disappointed you several times, but they are, you know, but for other people, they are reliable. And you have a relationship with them. But with some other people, they are reliable. But with you, they've disappointed you. Their credibility is zero as far as you're concerned. Would there be trust? Would you trust the person? No, you wouldn't. You won't trust the person. Okay? If they are credible and they are reliable, if you send them, go and run this errand, they'll run the errand. But when they come back with change, it will be short by 3,000, 4,000. Right? Would there be trust? He won't give you the change. So, if the person is not reliable, but they will run the errand, they will do everything, but they don't give you your change back, you won't trust them. You won't trust them with money. You may trust them with something else, but you will not trust them with money. So this is an important thing to know, because if any of these things are missing, you know, especially if you don't even have relationship with them, and there may be all these other things, but you feel there's something missing about this guy I don't know. There's something I don't know about him. I need to know his background. Okay? So, we come to the end. Any more questions? We've abridged quite a bit for time, and I like the discussion around conflicts. I hope that helped a lot, you know. And in terms of trust and environment, the environment is important for us to have an organization. This what we're talking about, all these things we're talking about this person going up and down and all that. It's about our environment, how we work together. That has to be sorted out. That has to be clear. How people operate. Maybe that hasn't been cleared. And maybe HR has to make a presentation to management about some of these things. You know, because if individuals go and talk about it, it might be. But a presentation like, okay, an update on our work environment. This is what we see. This is what we can do better. This is how we work better when we work together like this. We have issues where this is happening. We need to talk about how we can work. Is this what we want? Okay? I teach acculturation, and I know that in acculturation, you have to make sure that things are clear to everybody. And making that kind of presentation helps the culture. So you're taking hold of the culture. So the culture is not running haywire by itself. You're saying, we cannot work like this because there are issues around this. And HR has to drive that process. It's a project for them. Okay? All right. Anything else? Do you have a question?
No, just a contribution from Atinuke. She said, I think credibility and reliability are intertwined. A reliable person is credible, and a credible person is reliable. One cannot exist without the other.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Atinuke. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Comments, issues, insights? All right. Yes. I'll come to you. Mike, I'll take her, then I'll come to you. It's off? Yeah, a bit.
Oh, hello? Okay. So going back to the equation that you said for trust of credibility plus reliability equals intimacy.
Do you understand? But it also means that as a manager, you have to mentor that person, or you have to coach that person to get better in that area that he needs to do well in, so that, you know, your trust level for him. If I give you work and I can't trust that you'll finish it, then you're not reliable. If I need something in 2 hours and it takes you 6 hours or 7 hours to do it, it's not that you're lying, that you're doing it or you're not doing it issue. It's because you don't know how to do it, right? So it means that I can't trust you with that work. All right. But they need help. And if you know that's a problem, then you need to help them. Okay? All right. You wanted to ask a question?
Just a comment, and to re-emphasize the point you made earlier about getting to discuss maybe from the HR perspective on how we do things. Because I've seen in organizations where, the leader, the leader, you do something, the leader says, no, this is not right. Maybe you bypass and you escalate. Say, no, this is not right. You do it this way. And when B does the same thing, B is excused. And there's confusion. So I think it is very, very important for HR, and I believe Atinuke is listening, and a point was made yesterday that we need to take note of certain issues that we need to take up and then resolve them. So I think I just felt we need to emphasize that. Thank you.
So Atinuke, I hope you're listening, and Olamide is here too. So these are things that you have to look at, because it's also part of the issue. If it causes conflict, then it has to be looked at. All right. Okay. Kenneth?
Yes, please. The issue of intimacy in the area of trust, to what extent you are referring to that intimacy?
Okay, what we're referring to is, when you say to what extent, the same extent as you would in terms of anyone working with you. Do you know that person well enough to trust them? Okay, or you know them very little to trust them? Okay, if I don't know you very well, right, then I won't trust you as much as someone that I know. If I don't know you very well, I won't trust you as much as someone that I know very well. So it's about time in terms of how I know you. You may even know somebody for 5 years and not really know them because you don't have a relationship with them. Do you understand? And you may know somebody for 2 years and have a closer relationship with them. So trust will be based on how well you know the person too.
I think this extent of knowing someone, determining the level of trust you ascribe to that person, brings a question into my mind, where a situation whereby I'm a manager and I have a new boss who brings in another guy under me. They came in together, and he's been probably working with that guy for a while, somewhere else, and he trusts the guy. And probably because he didn't know me, they are both new, most of the job he has to do goes to that guy bypassing me. And do you expect me to, because I already know that relationship, do I go to him and, why are you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, you're senior.
He has not worked with me. He doesn't know the competency but they just met me on the job, you know.
Well, I mean, it goes without saying that because he knows that person, he gets the job. But over time, he'll get to know you too. So there are two things. You have to also prove yourself to him. Yes? And you also have to ask for more jobs from him. You know. You have to go and ask him for more jobs. But you also have to prove yourself to him so that it doesn't now depend on because this guy came with him, but because you're reliable, you're credible, and the period of knowing you will take time.
Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No, do not need the test. Can you hear me? Hello?
See myself. See myself. I am happy to know Lola. That's why you are starting to yes. You saw the window. I was touching that. And look at me. I'm like a refugee traveling around with tears. Yeah, just like literally like there's people who've been on a boat for 14 hours and then they just eat whatever the Red Cross has given them. That's who I am.
Which brother? Okay, but is he going to bring down the webinar?
My name is Kenneth Siden. I'm from the TPL Ugele, Transcorp Power Limited.
My first name is Gilbert. I work with Transcorp Power, Finance Department.
I'm Peter Ikaro, Transcorp Power.
My name is Olamide Malik.